boom! My name is King Lagazi, the 7-star general, the host of Yard Settings on Assassi Radio, an award winner as well, and MC for Lagazi Sound International. Ladies and gentlemen, kings and queens, tune into the lion voice, because time to tell our own story. So are you me, man? The lion coming on and boom and tell its own story. Africa and the world. Tune in, lion voice.
And even when I went to Ethiopia, the idea sparked there was that we have to create jobs in Africa. We can't go, like, it's cool to take all of your money that you made in the West and to go and establish yourself and I'm not knocking anyone that's going to retire because they deserve it, but I'm of that younger generation that I'm not quite in retirement age, and I feel like we need to go create jobs because that's the only way that you can really say that you're really doing something for the continent. And necessarily because at the end of the day, if you look at the preamble for, let's go back to EWF, what was said in the charter for EWF is that it was created for Black people of the world, right? True. So it's not, and you cannot expect all of us to have the same everything, and so I don't see it as a conflict for me because I still hold my principles in that space. And even culturally, if you look at Africa, like, again, the shame of the Black body or the shame of nudity, it's not, we don't see, even now, like, you'll see, like, children will shake and dance and do things in America that would be considered provocative, but that's not a part of our paradigm. That is a European Roman church, shame, sin driven type of paradigm. And so we have to come out of that because that's not us.
Well, lion voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion voice.
Greetings in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I. Glory and honor in the name of his chosen queen, Empress Waziri Menen. My name is Kwasi Bansu, aka the Dejazmatch Kwasi, aka Ras Kwasi, aka the Reading Ras, aka the Panafrican Happy Man. I'm an entertainment attorney, I'm an author, I'm an actionist, I'm an artist, and right now I'm the host of the Lion's Voice. And right now it's Women's History Month, and we are here for Lion Talk. And you see beside me I have a royal empress of Ethiopia right here beside me. I'm going to introduce this guest, and it gives Iman so much pleasure. Why? Because I've known her over 2 decades. So it's not somebody who's a stranger to I. Going forward to the Howard University days. And I tell everyone my superpower is my network. And this is one of the reasons. This lady here beside me is probably worked just as hard as I do on as many projects. So I don't feel so bad when I'm talking about all the things I'm doing because of all of the work that she's doing. She is an engineer. So let's just take her out of a box because you can't put this sistren into a box. She's an entrepreneur. Some of the nicest products for you. We're going to talk about all of the things that she's doing. I look up to this sistren, I'm going to be honest, because of the work ethic. She is a mother. She is so many things. I'm going to allow her to introduce and to talk about all of the different facets. But a Rastafari woman who is not just about the talk, she's about the action. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about the great Mama Thea.
Give thanks, Rastafari. Yes, Rastafari love to the family. It's my honor and pleasure to actually sit here with you, Ras Kwasi. Get a little shine on the what is it? Oh, what is it? No,
YouTube.
YouTube.
Yes,
sorry, right.
yes,
But
yes.
it will be on. I'm going to repost it on all of my platforms. So
Yes,
you know,
yes, big promotion.
so give thanks for coming to my home, and
Yes.
I'm looking forward to see what we're going to get into in this conversation. I'm all everything is above water with me, so we can go
Yes.
down any avenue in terms of, you know, myself or coming into Rastafari and all those things. We can go as far as you want.
And it's sweet to I because you're the mother of adult children, but yet I know the I from before you had children.
Mm-hmm.
So for I, it's a special interview because not everybody you interview, and this goes forward to the Howard University days,
Mm-hmm.
you know, Naya Binky House days. You know, there are very few people that had that same experience that we had in those early days as students, treading up in the liberty, you know, that African consciousness. I want to get there, but I want to find out, where are you coming from? Where were you born? Let's go through the journey so that when we get to the, you know, all the exciting adventures, people have an understanding on who the I really is. So where were you born first?
So I was born in Berkeley, California.
Okay.
Yes. To immigrant parents. My parents are both from Trinidad and Tobago. My mother being from Port of Spain, the city, and my father being from Tiche village, which is on the south side, which is the side where all the oil is. But it's very far from each other. Like, well, not far, but in the 70s, which is when I was born.
Okay.
And so.
So you're first generation American.
I'm first generation
in terms of born in America.
In terms of being born in America. Okay. Yes. And actually, even amongst my cousins that are in my age set, I think there's only 2 of us in my age set that were actually born in the U.S.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everything else goes to Trinidad.
Yes.
Okay. So California. Mm-hmm. Take us to where you brought up in a Pan-African home, or where did the consciousness arise from?
Well, I think, for sure, because at the time, you know, being in the 70s, I was born in 1974, and so during that time, everyone, you know, wanted to be black. Like, I grew up in it was called Wajumbe Cultural Center. I lived in the Fillmore, and this is I was raised in Trinidad for a few years, but as like from 8 on up, I was back in the U.S. And so I always had access to African culture, both directly, like on the dance floor, as well as even in acting. I remember the first acting situation I had was at the Wajumbe Cultural Arts Center, and we played in this play called The Black Flash. I don't really remember what it was, but I remember, you know, being a scene, and I had a little role, and you know, all those type of things. And then my mother also worked in Haight-Ashbury at a health food store. So even like that cultural aspect of like being more health conscious, and, you know, grew up on avocado sandwiches and carrot juice and that sort of thing. So that was very much. And during that time, you know, California, the northern part of California was, you know, very vibrant, very black. We had Juneteenth festival in the Fillmore. I was raised in the Fillmore, which is no longer a predominantly black community, but when I was there, it was. The cultural center is still there, but they've changed the name, so it's no longer Wajumbe. But it's still there. And then a lot of people, because of the pricing, getting priced out of San Francisco, a lot of people went over to Oakland, and then again they were priced out of Oakland, and so now they're like, you know, deeper into like Hercules, Pinole, you know, areas that are cheaper in terms of like families. But the culture was always, you know, very strong. We had Congolese dance, even learning like Dunham through like some of Catherine Dunham's students. That was a part of my upbringing as well.
So you went to high school, everything in, where is it, San Francisco?
Yeah, I went to high school in San Francisco. I went to actually, let me put my nerd hat on. So I went to Lowell High School, which was at the time when it was created was an all boys high school, and then Stanford University was actually created for my high school. Okay. So they created Stanford to funnel those people who graduated from my high school into college. Okay. So, you know.
So it was big on STEM, because you're a STEM, and this is why one of the reasons I'm excited to interview because you're a
Mhm.
S.T.E.M person, you know. We're going to get into, because she deals with waste management. You are high on my board. I have my internal Zion,
Mhm.
building of Zion vision board, the Iron, Ras Culture, and certain other ones, Ras Boo, are high there because you all are engineers. But, you know, the journey to get from, you know, that Pan-African upbringing to the S.T.E.M, was the S.T.E.M always a part, or how did that?
Yeah, it was always a part of my paradigm. So as a young girl, I was fascinated with crystals, and I mean, I have crystals all over my house. I wanted to be a rock scientist, so study geologist. At the time, my vocabulary was like, I want to be a rock scientist. Science was always a part of my paradigm. I was also fortunate enough to be in the gifted programs, coming through through high school.
Everything is coming together. I understand now.
Yeah, so I was. Oh well, I will tell you, and I actually have a book. My one of my favorite science teachers, Mr. Steele. Actually, I'm still friends with him on Facebook, and he wrote a book on climate change. But he really opened my mind up to science, because he tied science with nature, because I'm already like, nature is like, that's where I feel most at peace with. And so he took us on hikes, took us to Mount Tamalpais, learned about the stars, and so that's where my passion came in for science. And then I was always mathematically inclined. You know, when you go through the gifted and talented program, they actually give you both the scientific side. So they were doing, I'm actually a product of S.T.E.M. It wasn't called S.T.E.M at the time, but the gifted program, like we went to plays, and we went to, we studied like antiquities, and we also kind of went harder. And this was from middle school when I was getting these things, you know. So
what year is this, when you were in middle school?
So
for the viewers.
For the viewers, yeah, no issues. I have no issue with telling my age. So I have to kind of go backwards. So this is 84 to 88 is when I was in middle school.
Give thanks.
Just
to put context in the time period.
Yeah.
So when did you choose Howard University as an option, and how did you get to Howard?
Okay, so that's a good question. That's a good question, because I actually like this, because oftentimes you don't really get to go through like your timeline. You're just living now, and you're looking forward, and you don't kind of go back. But when I was a baby, my mother I was a barrel baby. So my parents, they were here in the U.S. and I was in Trinidad. My grandmother actually was a domestic in Venezuela. And so my mother took me there, and then my grandmother took me, and I was raised by my father's older sister, Mommy Joyce. And when I came back, so around 7, 8, I came back to the U.S. My mom had decided to migrate to Washington, D.C. My aunt, my favorite aunt, Auntie Shirley, shout out to Auntie Shirley. She was actually a student at Howard University at the time. She was doing soil engineering, or civil engineering, but she specialized in like soil engineering for her master's. And my mother moved out, because they were always like peas in a pod. And so they left. They were peas in a pod. So they were in San Francisco and living the whole life then. And let's see, where am I?
You're talking about Dr. Howard.
Yes.
Your mother.
So my mother moved to DC, and so when she came back and got me from Trinidad, and right after coming to Trinidad, I had a summer in California, and then straight to DC. So I spent my third year. When I was in third grade, I went to Ross Elementary School in Washington, D.C. And then actually at the time, Howard had a science and art camp. And because my mother worked at Howard, she was the secretary for the dean of pediatric dentistry. And so I got into this program. And so I did Spanish, robotics, and dance, and science. I can't remember. I think it was because I remember doing dissection, so it was biology. So I did that at Howard. That's kind of how I knew and learned about Howard. And so I was on the campus at a very young age. But it was in the 80s. This is 84, because remember I said I went to middle school 84 to 88. So right before middle school, or right before right before high school, whatever time. Actually, it was in the 80s, in the early 80s. Now my old age is kicking in. I'm like, what year was it? So it was the early 80s. So it had to be the early 80s because I was 8. Okay, so it was 82. There we go.
This is fresh from Trinidad.
So it was very much of a culture shock. One, because of the weather, you know, and then, you know, and I went from the trajectory went, my mom came and got me from Trinidad. We stopped in Florida to see Auntie Sandra, and then we went to California. My dad was having this big birthday party, and so it was like all this fun stuff, and it was like DC cold. And not only was DC cold, but at the time people were very cold, but it also was during the time
that was the murder capital.
The murder capital of the world. You know, you had high drugs. It was a lot going on.
And where Howard campus is in the epicenter.
Right, and I lived in that community.
Yeah.
You know, I lived off of 16th Street. And so it was a cultural shock because I was used to saying good afternoon and hello to people and and I used to take the 70. I used to take the 70 to meet my mom at Howard after school, and it was very cold. Wow, you know, it was very cold. So I was like, Ma, you know, my mother and father were not together, so I decided to come back to California. Okay. And so I was only in DC 1 year, but ironically, I don't even though I went to Howard at the summer program, it didn't click to me that it was actually Howard. Yeah. So after graduating from high school, I didn't come straight to college. I took 2 years. I went to junior college, and that's because I had a boyfriend. You know, I didn't want to leave. You know, but I actually had a job. I was employed as an insurance agent, not at an insurance agent's office. So I learned a lot about securing money and insurance policies and taxes, you know, because it was a CPA insurance agency as well. So it wasn't like I wasn't like building my career, but I was like, I didn't want to not go to college and regret not going to college. Yeah. So then I said, okay, let me go to Howard, the best, institution on the East Coast.
Right.
So,
what year did you get to Howard?
I came to Howard in 94. I think the fall of 94.
Because I started in 96, so you were there.
I was there.
I just want to compliment you on how nice your voice sounds. Partly because of the mics that you have on. I want to big up the Lion Pride on Patreon, who have invested in the platform. You see, we upgrade so you can hear us better. Mama feel soothing voice coming through the audio. So I just have to take time and big up the Patreon and the patrons who have been supporting the platform, because you see, they have provided us with this technology. Anyhow, you're at Howard University, and this is 1994. This is the height of freaknik culture. Party time in America. This is in the midst, because I caught the tail end of that whole wave, because I was a Rastafari when I came to Howard. I'm going to talk about that on Gallus Road platform. We're going to get into all of that, what I was up to before I found the culture. When you came to Howard, were you already treading Rastafari, or were you just still in the world?
So, coming from, I was always very quiet and very introverted and just, not very busy with all of those type of things. And then, my father is actually Rasta as well. And so I had him as an image. So my father was, I'm laughing because he was like the BMW Rasta, like for real. Like he had the champagne colored BMW. He had the cell phone console. He actually, my father's also a musician, but during that time, because he was a musician, like he hosted Bob Marley. Like they used to hang out. Like Sister Linda, who's this amazing dancer, and she told me this story. She was like, because her and my father were friends, and they were platonic friends, but he had, whenever he wanted to escape his world, he would, go to her house, so he had keys. And so she told me this story, and she said they came, and she said she had a garden, and she came, and her garden was missing, like somebody had pulled up her greens, and she said that she's from Louisiana by way of Los Angeles, and she said, who was this that pulled up my phone? And she looks, and she sees my dad and she sees Bob Marley, and he was like, "It's Bob Marley." And she was like, "I don't care who that is." Pulled up my stuff, so I've had access to that world. Even actually, I did get to see Bob Marley perform because I have parents, and being in Northern California, it's still like that. You can bring your children to events and outings, and so so I was about 5 or 6. I remember I was high coming back home because I remember going across this one. You know how there's things in your memory, the lights going across the Bay Bridge were just real bright because I was in Zellerbeck Theater, and I remember standing on the aisle and Bob Marley with a big spliff and the smoke everywhere. And I always I think I don't get really excited about like superstars, but Bob Marley is one of those people that I probably would fall out for. But I was fortunate enough to actually experience Bob Marley as a very small child. So culturally, I was never really out of line.
Rastafari. It was always something.
It's something I knew about. You know, my father had picture of His Majesty in the house. You know, so it's something that I was accustomed to. I actually, when I started Howard, is when I actually started my faith in Rastafari. I had trimmed and I had started going natural. So, my locks came in at the time.
So what made you gravitate? Like, how did you find out about the Bingy house? How did you...
I'm trying to remember, Well, okay, so this is how I found out. You're one of your brethren. You're one of your best brethren, Shayun, because Ras Shayun and myself were both chemical engineering in the chemical engineering department, and he was there a year or so before I came, because I didn't come to Howard directly out of college, out of high school. I graduated in college. I graduated high school in 92. Your boyfriend
distracted you.
Yes, he distracted me. So so I came a little later. So even though I was older than them, and then Shayun and Natalie, they were like prodigies. So they were in college at like 15, 16-year-olds. So they was little babies. But Natalie happened to become my roommate, and it was just by whim, because I went to live in the towers on the east side, so I was paying my own rent. And Natalie and Shayun were friends, so I met Shayun through Natalie, and that's how I kind of fell into the Bingy house and started to learn more about.
So were you already Rastafari when you met Shayun, or because that would be when he was just starting to try?
Yes, because I had kind of started that journey in California. Like I said, my father, the music that was in my house, the shows that would be in California. So I went to a lot of shows, culture, and so I grew up. My father was a musician, so I grew up being backstage, seeing and hearing a lot of this music.
So you would have had your lock started at that time when you were at Howard.
Yes, I was just budding. Yeah, I had.
So give me some memory. What do you remember about the Bingy house of Washington, D.C.?
Oh man, it was just such a powerful place. I just the whole setup, just the library. I remember just the family vibes too, because you had a lot of families. I remember Mugabe and Muna, especially Sister Leah. Those were like the ones who I was around.
They were like the bedrock. They were like the pillar families.
Yeah, and I guess my most fondest person was Pa Jack. Now there are places that I missed though. So I missed like when Raspido and all of them came, and like there are pieces of it that I missed. Because I graduated in '99, and I think when I came forward after graduate school is when I got more into. I actually came back to DC because of Rastafari Basic Academy, and because it was.
So where did you after you graduated in '99? Where did you go?
I went back to California. I went back to California. It wasn't by choice. I actually was planning on doing my master's like straight after. I had a research project, had a program. Like I got accepted, but I decided to. Well, life took its course too. I had like I guess my in my 20s, I had somewhat of a nervous breakdown or whatever.
Oh, wow. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
I know, right? And
See
I mean,
why the lion talk
and I
is so
think it's a
important. I'm a bona fide sister. I don't know.
no,
You see.
seriously,
Yeah.
like majorly, like it could be controversial. Like if I
Okay.
was to go into all of the I mean,
Yeah.
I'm being funny, but no, like seriously, like junior year at Howard, like I had like just, you know, life happened, you know, and I had like a nervous breakdown. I actually had to like drop out of school. I didn't lose the semester because it was like right around spring break, so I had done most of the coursework. That was my 4.0 year as well too. But so I had to come back and like redo all the tests and stuff to get my courses. But yeah, so I went back kind of unwillingly. I wanted to stay, but because, you know, I was kind of rocky, I went back, and also to take care of my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, because she lived in California. So I stayed there a couple years. So 99 through 2004, I stayed in California. I had my first child there, but I was still, but it was also part of my formative years in terms of like really stepping into Rastafari.
Yeah.
So I was one of the founding members of EWF Local 23, and was very active in my local. I think I served as secretary as well as vice president for my local. And my local is, I mean, we're still in communication, and we were like serious. Like we our community, we practice martial arts, you know, so. And I miss this too, but back in those days, like the women used to train with their babies tied to their back, you know. So I guess that whole Black Panther vibe, like it's still very much a reality in that space.
Nice.
And so it was good to have that kind of solidarity that's still within, you know, it was a really good mix within the Rastafari culture, as well as like Pan-Africanism, as well as, I wouldn't necessarily call like Black Panthers Pan-Africanism, Pan-African, but like Black liberation type. You know, we're here to help support our communities and make it a better place, you know. So I was a part of all of that. I taught at Luxor Academy, which was a CB school, which is CB is, don't get me to saying the acronym, but it's a group of independent Black institutions. And so I worked there, and I was able to, you know, Ani was tied on me while I was teaching math and science. I taught math and environmental science there.
And big up Ani, your firstborn daughter.
Yes,
I have a set of youth that every time I see them, I remind them that I knew them since they were in their mother's belly. And they don't like it, but I do it. And she's one of them. Your children are one of them, Mama. Akua. You know, we have certain ones, but I love it because, you know, you see them grow over the years. They become their own people. They become, you know, adults now, and it's like, wow, you know, where did the time go?
Yes.
And you know, I think children is one of the best ways to mark time, because
for sure,
you really
because we still think we
exactly.
still think we in our 20s. Okay, don't get twisted. But when you see your children or other, especially when you see other people's children,
that you knew from a baby, and they're adults, they have beard, they have, you know, they're grown women, and you're like, wait a
what
second.
happened? Definitely know that you're aging.
So how did you get to what you do? And I want to explain what you do in engineering, because I think you're probably one of one in Rastafari in terms of what you do. And this is remarkable.
There's two of us. There's our brother Aziz from North Carolina. He also works in the water industry.
Okay. And big up Ras Aziz. We're working on a project together right now for the Naya being girl. So So I got my undergraduate in chemical engineering, because at the time, I mean, I always wanted to be an environmental engineer, but at the time, you know, in the 90s, early 90s, into the changing over into the new millennium, the programs weren't as robust, so they were focused heavily on civil engineering. So building bridges and roads, and I was like, I don't want to build bridges and roads. We're gonna bring culture.
I want to build bridges and roads. It was so interesting because I'm building bridges and roads. Well, I'm working in the infrastructure of roads and bridges. And so I did chemical engineering because I thought about pollution, and I thought, well, who are the polluters? Well, polluters are people who are chemical engineers, because chemical engineers, they pretty much do everything that from refining oil to making, surfactants to any.
Okay, stop there. Surfactants. Don't
So-
just pop out them word there.
Surfactants is soap like your Tide and your your
Okay.
laundry detergent and your cleaning supplies, pharmaceuticals, those type of things. Chemical engineers are typically at the helm of that. So and then also all of these large manufacturing places, they have to utilize water. Water for the sourcing and for making their product, and also for cooling their machinery. So there's always an outstream at these plants, and for the most part, these outstreams can be really detrimental to the environment because they can go out and they can pollute. And during the 80s and 90s, we're industrialized, but we're not concerned about like pollutants. And then there's also new chemicals that are being brought into the system that we don't even know how they react to the environment. So like for instance, there's something called atrazine, which is a pharmaceutical company, and it changes the frogs. It made frogs hermaphroditic. And so if we follow,
that was Syngenta behind that.
and being that even though we don't eat flesh, it still goes up the food chain, but we're still dealing with the water source and agriculture, so we're still getting it, and a lot of these things are volatile as well. So I went into chemical engineering, wanted to like be able to be I was thinking about I might become a JD like you. I have like really been thinking about doing environmental law.
Okay.
Yeah, I really have been thinking about it, but I don't know, like another thing to put in my basket.
Yeah, we need you on the side because we still have to build Zion, and we're going to need clean water.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? How many Rastafari people do we have that can do what I do?
It's true.
In terms of water management and building, because I have projects I'm waiting to bring to the eye, that we're going to need in terms of water management, waste management.
I've definitely been working 15 years in the industry on the wastewater side and the water side. So I, so that was undergrad. I went back home to California. Like I said, like when I got into like dealing with the community, and then I decided that I needed my master's. I was like, I wasn't happy not utilizing what I went to school for. And so I decided I was either going to go back to school to be a teacher, I was going to go to Mills College or Howard University. And Howard University called me first, and I was excited to like come back. At the time I had my 3-year-old, and I was also pregnant with Jakai at the time. And at that time, Rastafari Basic Academy was thriving. I had come to DC for the Empress Menin conference at Nana Farika.
Big up Nana Farika.
Yes, put together.
Sister Isla,
right?
Academy. They'll be on this platform in DC.
And so coming here and just being in DC and being around I think that's actually the first time that I met Mama Waleti. I didn't remember. I don't have that impeccable memory like Mama Waleti does. She's like, yes, Thea, remember we went to eat at the Queen of Sheba? I was like, I do remember eating at the Queen of Sheba. And then it kind of started to fall forward. So it was a delegation of like 4 or 5 of us that came from, we fundraised through our local, we did a fashion show, and we did a fashion show and a party to raise money for us to get to DC. So coming and feeling all of that energy and seeing everything that was going on in DC, and the fact that I wasn't really finished with DC because I was kind of uprooted from DC before I really wanted to be gone from DC, I decided to come back. And at the time I was taking care of my grandmother. She had decided that she was going to go back to Trinidad, so that like my obligation wasn't there anymore. So because I didn't have any ties to California, and as beautiful as my state is, it wasn't a place that I wanted to raise my children. Because I wanted my children to see Black family structure, and DC is perfect for that, because you get to see Black families in all stratospheres. People that are doing very well, middle class. Like it's common to see doctors, lawyers, engineers, professional people, business owners in DC, and I think it was important for me to have my children.
It's important for our audience to understand this DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia, Northern Virginia is probably the most prosperous area of Black people in the world in terms of concentrated wealth. From the Africans from the diaspora, the Caribbean, African Americans, because we have the federal government here.
Mm-hmm.
We have all of these agencies, the military industrial complex, a lot of black people are employed. So you have a lot of 6-figure plus black
Households,
people,
yep.
in this area. That's not unusual. So we're very, it's very unique here in the DMV. We also don't have a lot of Rastafari families anymore because the cost of living is so high. We're probably the remaining, a few of the last remaining that actually live in DC proper, in terms of Rasta. Because even from the time that you're speaking of, so many people have left the region. So we're like the last, and we're not going to be here much longer.
No, we counting. We're ready to go across on the other side.
So let's talk about Ashley Pure, and then I want to talk about the Ghana child. This is a queen mother on the continent. This is somebody who you just think is a regular person. So let's talk about Ashley Pure, because every time I try to be Ethiopian thick with my wife, I have to get her some products from Ashley Pure. I have to make sure that I get the products from Mama Thea, who you translated your knowledge of chemical engineering into creating products that I think are second to none. Talk about Ashley Pure.
Yeah, so Ashley Pure is, my fourth child. It's definitely one of my children, and I established it in 2005. I was working at the time, but I've always had this entrepreneurial spirit in me. And also, growing up in California, that whole natural liberty that I had, I was always exposed to natural products. So it was something that I wanted to do. I actually wanted to create a business and actually even teach entrepreneur skills to high school students. So that's a piece that I need to add on as I move forward. But I created it because I felt I was kind of getting that glass ceiling kind of hit me. Shouts out to DC Water. I mean, those who know, but because, only you yourself know how capable you are. People see you, but they don't really know what's going on in your head. And, and so they see you for what you show them, but there was so many other parts that I wanted to be involved with. So I didn't feel like I was getting the upward mobility, in my job. So I was like, I need to, and then also, you have to, what I would love the audience to remember or to learn today is that we're like, I believe in natural order, right? And a part of natural order is like, you have your age set. So I'm, in my late 40s. I'm so excited about it. I'm in my late 40s. So, I know when I'm in my 60s, not that I wouldn't be working, but my tolerance level and my drive will be shifted. So I wanted to maximize what my 40-year-old brain had to offer to my community and also to myself. And also coming from, a Pan-African point of view, understanding life, like living life and understanding, okay, going to college, getting degrees, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be lifted to this position of like power. And when I say power, not power to control other people, but power to move things within your own family and create platforms and foundation for your youth children, and for your grandchildren. So when I started to realize that and
you can't pass on a job to your grandchildren
and feeling marginalized, I was like, I ain't got time for that. I'm like, I know how to be strategic. Let me go ahead and create. So I started my business. I started to go to a lot of, I joined like the, well, I didn't join, but I started to attend the DC Chamber of Commerce events and just getting information about different things. I want to exercise an import-export loan and just putting myself in these places. And of course, I started off really small. In 2005 was when I established it, but I don't think I actually really I did not start really moving into it solidly until 2011. But that also had to do with my children, because when I started it, Amma wasn't even in my womb yet. So she was born in 2006 and around 2011, which is when she was about 5 years old, is when I really got to like push it a little bit more. But I would just, do it a little bit at the time, Everlasting Life, where they had the grocery store. I had my product and I had the soap in there. I had it in this place called the Sistren. Is it the Sistren? Not in the Sistren. It's called It's actually called the Blue Nile. It's called the Nile. It's in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So I had it there. And then I would do my children went to Nation House. So when they had the Kwanzaa Calabash and those small events, I would set up. And then I got savvy and created a website, and then I hid from my customers. And then Square came along, which was kind of the Square came along and was game changing for me because the ability to take credit cards. Now I had the credit card machine, like I was smart enough to get it, but I had the one that that you had, get your, and then you had to type it in and all that kind of stuff. But having the Square made things a lot easier.
And for those who don't know, you can just plug it into your phone.
Yeah, it's a point of sale software that is really, really innovative and makes it easy for entrepreneur or someone. I mean, you don't even have to have a business really. Like you don't have to be registered with the government, which is probably why their stock is dropping right now. But it was a game changer. It was a game changer for me. And so because it made it easy to track my sales. Yeah. And so when you're able to track your sales and you get to see, okay, this is making sense. And then once you see what you're making, then you look at what you're spending, and then you start to do this little.
It becomes an actual business,
right?
Not a hobby.
Exactly.
Or, you're looking
exactly.
At what am I putting in? Return on investment.
Yes.
Making projections. If I buy this much, I can make this much.
Exactly. Yep. And so I will proudly say that once I started tracking I had a straight increase, like exponential increase in my business. It would double every year. The sales would double. And again, part of that was just getting myself out there, and another part was obviously having a good product that people enjoyed using. And
top of the line.
Yeah, I was able to, and then I would do a lot of vending, but I was working like I am the worker bee.
She is a worker.
Working a lot. So I did a lot within the community, both the Rasta community as well as the
Panafrican community.
I think we need to do the Rastafari Family Day.
Yes.
Putting it on camera.
We're talking with Mama Oleta and I were talking about that.
I want to do it this year again.
Yeah,
we can. I'll put it. We can. I'll make it happen.
Because literally, when I was at Mama Oleta's house, and big up Mama Doctor Olete, you'll have seen her episode by the time that this comes out. We were talking about the family day and how we need and dates, and we were going back and Thea, and then you see.
Yeah. So I've been thinking about it. I know Ras Iris would be happy. He was very upset that I put it down.
Yes, and that was I used to book the space.
Yeah.
All of the permits,
coordinate everything.
All of the things. So this is a sistren close to Iman's heart because. You don't have to ask if the work is going to get done. It's going to get done. Yeah.
First one there, last one to leave.
That's Mama Thea. Tell me, what do you do on a day-to-day? Because I missed this. What do you do on a day-to-day basis at DC Water?
Okay.
Like just for the S.T.E.M, because I want to make sure for the S.T.E.M we get.
So I managed a section of the capital improvement, so infrastructure upgrades. So all of the new water mains that get put into the District of Columbia, I have a part in it. And from conception to construction. So I work in a group that actually reviews designs. We don't create the designs, but we correct them. So I'm looking at design drawings for upcoming projects, and then creating what we call a shut plan, which is when you have to shut off water in order to connect in that new infrastructure. And also I'm responsible of coordinating with other stakeholders when their water is supposed to come off. For the most part, most of our stakeholders are just residences, but oftentimes we have government buildings and embassies, and like this year we had a project that affected the Supreme Court. And so I'm dealing with those type of things. And then sometimes I get thrown into other projects. We manage assets like fire hydrants and our valves in our system, and then we also have different things, tanks and stuff like that. So so
you can see as we create sustainable communities, because my channel we talk about the building of Zion, because we have the Habesha Kwasi project, which is a proof of concept, but we're talking about we talk about heaven on earth, we talk about the what does that look like in real life? How does the water being managed? How are we storm, because we know we're coming to a time where the world is going to shut down again. You know, America and Russia look like they want war. So we could have a nuclear calamity. We could have all kind of things. We need to have our own sustainable communities to endure if these crazy people, you know. So this sistren is very crucial to Iman in terms of the planning. And we've started, and like I said, I have several projects that I'll be bringing your way. But that's another thing, because we're not going to talk about that.
Because my youngest is almost out of high school, so that's kind of my timeline to kind of jump off and go all grassroots.
Yes. So that's beautiful, and everything is working beautifully. So okay, we talk about Asli Pure. How do people find Asli Pure, and what type of products do you?
Okay, so Asli Pure is the natural. It's a natural body care product, and I was it's only 4 products. So I do natural soap, which is all plant based. I don't use any artificial colorants. Then I have a body nectar, which is like a shea butter base cream. I do a body oil, and then I also do a scrub, like for polishing, exfoliating your skin. And in addition to those core products, I have accentuate with different natural body care tools, so loofahs and things like that. And then so there are 2 locations. Well, there's more than 2 locations, but the main locations to get the product is either coming into the actual storefront. I've been blessed to have a storefront for 6 years. This is the 6th year that I've had it. 2017, that would be 6 years. No, this is the 7th year. So I'm on year 7. And it is located in Mount Rainier, Maryland, just right outside of Washington, D.C. So the address is 3806 34th Street in Mount Rainier, Maryland. For those of you who are in the DMV area, it's a block away from the Glut, which is, a natural food co-op that has been around the area for a very long time. You can also go online and purchase at www.aslipure.com. On the website, though, you'll only get pretty much product. In the store, there's it's a gift shop, so you'll get crystals, there's jewelry, there's other products, there's books. You're supposed to give me a book for your store. Not a Farika's books are in the store. But
we talked about it, so we're gonna bring Ethiopia.
Yeah, so it's a small little space. I'm really proud of it, because I'm action oriented, and especially since I've always been in the community amongst the youth. It's cool for me to see the excitement of the youth, because they saw me go from Mama Thea doing Family Day and having my little booths and finding out that I made product to actually seeing a storefront and actually seeing it grow and seeing it be sustained. And it's pretty cool, because now I'm getting to hire some of the youths in our community. Nice. So it's pretty cool.
Powerful. Okay. There's another part of Mama Thea that we're going to touch on. There's the carnival section.
Yes.
Yes. You wind up your bum. See what's going on with
Mama Thea is guilty of being a bacchanalist now. So yes, I do. And what's so interesting though, that it's late, because again, coming from, like, my father was a musician, there wasn't a whole lot of calypso or nothing in my household. It was pretty reggae straight. I think the closest thing to calypso was Billy Ocean, but he was so popular, and he was from Trinidad. But no, I found a love for soca, and it because I work so hard all the time, and it's a release. Now I know there are more modern aspects of like carnival that don't really align with Rasta, but the part that I am involved in is very much so. Not one necessarily. It's very cultural in paradigm. So the name of my
You're not drinking Hennessy and winding up yourself.
No, there is definitely Hennessy on the road. I cannot lie, because a part of our package that we sell to people who are coming.
And talk about the business, because you've turned it. You didn't just go to carnival as a thing, because your brain, how it works, you turn it into. I turn
it into business. You turn your passion into a business, and so I and it was actually even as I grow as an entrepreneur, you want to have multiple sources of income. And Asli Pure has been a solo venture. Like I've had many people helped me with it, but they were all compensated. There was no one, well, outside of Chad.
Yeah.
And
Big up Baba Chad.
yes, big up Baba Chad. he has not been really compensated for with Osly Pure.
Yeah.
But everybody that you ever seen within Osly Pure outside of myself and Baba Chad has been paid to work for Osly Pure. And so Fuse Carnival gave me an opportunity to work with a group of people, which I love. I don't think I'll ever start another business unless it was a really simple.
Who are the principal partners in Fuse?
So it's myself, Maisha, Hyman, who is the second half of Diallo Sumbri, and
who's doing big things in Ghana right now.
Akoto, whose birthday is today, though I know you're not hearing her happy birthday, Kos. And she's also a powerhouse. She created a fitness series called Asa, and she's also a professional dancer, has been on several.
Choreographed Black Panther 2.
Yes.
She was in that
yes,
film.
She was.
Yes. She's major.
She was a part of Janet Jackson her return a few years ago, on.
I want to interview her on this platform, Mama Thea.
Yeah. I'm sure Coastal would, I'm sure there's a contract, and she's serious now, because she got her sibling is a lawyer. So, Tewa. Do you know her sister? You should interview Tewa.
Yeah, definitely.
You should interview
I probably know her
Tewa
by face, but I
yeah, because she's pretty much she's kind of like the director, fiscal director of Nation House. So. She's taken on that family legacy. So there's, you have a lot of people at your fingertips.
And this is all part of the Pan-African community in the DMV. So we run in the same circles.
Yes.
So we've seen a lot of these people over the years.
And then our fourth business partner is, her name is Destiny Event.
Okay.
And she is, her children actually, her son used to go to Wilson Baker Academy.
Okay.
I don't think he's there. I don't know. Maybe he's still there. I'm not sure. So those are the four, and all of them are powerhouses, and all have their individual. Destiny is actually a part of the new. I don't know if you all heard the Legend Burger. It's a new vegan burger that has been taking waves in the DMV. So she's a part of that team. So it's like it's fun and crazy at the same time, because each individual, we're all doing these big things, but we come together to do Fuse Carnival, and it really is connecting the diaspora. So we say we're united by culture and divided by water. Well, it's actually divided by water, united by culture is our theme, because we are the only African American carnival company or business in Antigua. We've chose Antigua because we felt like, Antigua is nice. My godmother's from Antigua. There's several reasons why we started in Antigua, and we just kind of fell in love with Antigua. Antigua is actually ethnically Ghanaian. Like most of the descendants who are in Antigua are from Ghana, to the point where they still have the names, as well as even some of, like, I saw that Ankobian, the two swords, like they'll wear these pendants on, and so it's pretty interesting that that culture still stays in these regions, even though we were stripped of a lot of our cultural identity. And so so we always choose, our costumes are always based on an ethnic group within Africa. We've done, the first year was, let me go from forward backward. Let me go forward, because I can't go back that far because of my brain. So this year is called Ankara Legends, which we're taking all the different Ankaras, and they have Ankara is basically a African cloth, but a lot of the things that we don't know is that the cloths actually have a name. I don't know what this cloth is called, but this is an older print. But we have one that's called Sikawo Antaban, which is one with the birds. And then we have another one. I don't want to go into all of the but we put a lot of context, and we give like historical context, like why did we choose these particular themes.
So it's not just about bikini top
and we also and we, you know, because it's carnival, you have a client base that wants that. We have, and we also are considerate of people with different sizes, because, you know, I'm not a small girl at all. So we do have costumes that are for full figures, or even if people want to wear like lapas, so they can still, because it's really about really just freeing. It's a free up for me. So the end of the summer, it's in August, the end of the summer, it's like I've worked really hard and I just want to let loose, because like I don't really have time to party in home. I don't have time. Even last night I was like, oh, I kind of feel like I want to go out. But by the time nightfall, I'm like, my bed is cozy, it's cold outside, I'm not going anywhere. So a carnival, going to Antigua for carnival has been a part of like, kind of like the pat on my back. I made it through this year. Like, let me let go of the stress that got me to this part of the year, and let's start anew. Because I guess my fiscal year kind of starts at the end of Antigua Carnival. The year before that, we did Vibranium, which was an homage to the Black Panther movie series, and we did all of our costumes were kind of metallic. Well, they were in theme with the different characters. So the section that I chose was the red, black, and green one, which was it was named for what's Killmonger. It was for the, you know, which was for the Pan-African, because again, it was kind of like showing this is what happens, you know, when you come over to the diaspora and you're torn apart by the system and you're trying to build ourselves back up. And so it's really just showing our commonalities rather than our differences, because I think that is one of the worst things that I think colonialism and slavery has done, is that they've made us think that we're different, and we're not. Even to the types of food, you know, being from the Caribbean, we eat pretty much the same way as people in Africa eat. And even if you look at what was available to Africans here in America, it's still pretty much the same, you know. Definitely. So we're looking, and then even the rhythms, and you talk, I mean, right now there's a debate about like soca versus like Afro beats, and they're really one and the same. Because if you think about who's the most iconic, all of the most iconic musicians, Miriam Makeba, Hugh Masekela, Thea, and those are just the more popularized ones, not the smaller musicians. And shouts out to all of those wonderful musicians that I know. I'm sorry, I'm not able to say their names, but though they were all influenced by the 60s and the Black Power movement. And Fela did not become Fela until he came to LA and learned about, you know, what the black struggle. And also, you know, even soca originally, calypso and soca and it still is. It's political commentary to what's happening in the country, and it's like making kicks and jokes, or saying it without being abrasive to the government. Okay, we don't like this, or, you know, we don't want that. That's kind of like the core of it. And then we borrow music from each other, so we have to stop looking at ourselves as different. You know,
it's interesting, because what you've done, coming from Trinidad, you've taken your culture, you've merged it with the Pan-African, because that group of leadership from fuses the Pan-African leadership, and you've kind of emphasized the cultural components. And Mama Thea, you know, charts within the Nyabingi. You know, that's where I met Mama Thea, and that's how which, you know, Nyabingi is very conservative. Do you feel any tension between the Nyabingi trad and the carnival, where, you know, they have the Hennessy, they are winding up the Bamsi? That's part of the... how do you balance
not necessarily, because at the end of the day, if you look at the preamble for, let's go back to EWF, what was said in the charter for EWF is that it was created for Black people of the world. That's right. True. So it's not, and you cannot expect all of us to have the same everything, you know. And so I don't see it as a conflict for me, because I still hold my principles in that space. You know, you know, and even culturally, if you look at Africa, like, again, the shame of the Black body, or the shame of nudity, it became we don't see even now, like you'll see like children will shake and dance and do things in America that would be considered provocative, but that's not a part of our paradigm. That is a European Roman church, shame, sin driven type of paradigm, and so we have to come out of that because that's not us.
And I think the time for the conversation is now. I think the time to have these conversations is now, and this is why I love having this platform of Lion Talk, where we can, really look at, some of these traditional ways of looking at things, and because as we return to Africa, there are a lot of customs that we have to balance with, how Rastafari has emerged in the West, and we have to reconcile these things as we return home. And as you say, every African tradition, no matter what culture, has whining. There is no African culture.
Well, because our purpose is to procreate. So it's like
figure out
the male is attracted to the female, like that natural order, right? It's a natural order.
I have a song about it that I will release.
It's a natural order. So I think no, I haven't. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I'm shelter myself. I don't hide, because I mean, if you go on Facebook, you'll see pictures of Mama Thea in her costume.
No, I see.
So I haven't, I haven't found. I mean, it may come up in a congregation and be like, "Aren't you that Rasta sister that shakes?"
But a lot of them are doing things that they don't want people to uncover. Your thing is in the open. A lot of what people are doing is hidden.
Okay.
And we don't want to know what that is. So, you know what I mean? I think the conversation has to be had because nothing is static. You know what I mean? Is it being done in uprightness? If Mama Thea's out there drunken and wanna deal with you, then I'm not gonna be a carnival person. But because I grew up at Caravana, let me just let the people know I grew up at Caravana in Toronto, so I'm very familiar with culture. My brother just actually went to Trinidad Carnival this year.
I'm so jealous.
For the first time. I haven't seen any pictures, so I don't know what he was doing. But definitely these are things that as Black people, as we come together, this great gathering, we have to reconcile all of it, because Zion to I is not just one thing.
Right.
Zion is all of the great parts of all of the parts of the, that diversity of culture is what makes it so sweet.
Absolutely. And I think honestly, the freedom that we, require in Rastafari to hail His Majesty and hail Empress Menen, like those are our freedoms, you know. So this is how we resonate with who the God and Creator is. So, I'm not here to convince anybody of what it is. It's what resonates with me and what moves me, and so I don't feel like it's a conflict. And honestly, I've even through my Fuse Carnival have tapped into the Rastafari community in Antigua, and so we, a part of our group, we do a service project where we will take those who are interested, who are from our federal pool, that we'll take them to King Asaji Falls, Papa Asaji Falls campgrounds in Big Creek, Antigua, and get them to see what a Rastafari is, or what camp is, because a lot of ones don't know Rastafari. They know it from a very tunnel vision, either through the window of Bob Marley and the offshoots of like the music industry, or through stereotypical, like, pseudo. I mean, now that everyone has locks, you really can't differentiate between who is Rasta, who believes in His Majesty and Empress Menen, and who doesn't. So it's a good way, because again, Nyabingi, Rastafari all came through the same type of lens, like community building, learning about Africa, wanting our birthright to be able to return to Africa. So that again, as much as I'm a successful engineer, master's degree, my children, like I've done well for myself. I didn't ask to be here. You know what I mean? My forefathers didn't ask to be here, and I want to have the opportunity to go home and to strive and to be accepted and to do all of those things. So this is a way. And then to me too, like, it's not realistic for all of us to like take this big exodus back to Africa. So now my paradigm is like, well, we need to build our nations. Like, so the Caribbean nations, the American nations, the African nations, and we need to, come together, which is a powerful thing, because now, like, we're no longer these desolate people that have no home. We're no longer these colonized victims that all of our natural resources have been plied, because now you have the mind of a killmonger, right? Of someone born in the West that understands the trickery that happens within governments in order to get resources and the promisings of things. And then you promise this, but you got to give over your firstborn children. And so these are things that I don't think Africans that are on the continent are actually privy to, because they're coming from a place of need. It's almost similar to the thing that happened. Let me bring up Scott's past. It's similar to the things that happen when people are in need. It's like it's easy to take advantage of people when they're in need, right? And so these are things that I think that we can, if we come together, we can decipher these things and actually be a force in this world.
You talked about going home to Africa. Let's talk about, and we're gonna have to do part 2 and 3 to this interview, because there's a lot I haven't touched with Mama Thea. There's over 2 decades again of knowing the sistren, so I cannot get it all into an hour or an hour and a half. So this is going to be part 1. We're gonna have to come forward. But talk to me about the first time you went to Africa, and then just give me a little synopsis of the work that you're doing there.
Okay.
How you became a queen mother.
So the first time I went to Africa was actually Waleti and I went to Ethiopia.
That was your first trip? Okay.
That was my first trip to Africa. Was that 2013 or 2014?
That was one of my favorite pictures. There's a picture of you and Mama Waleti in Ethiopia. That
she's in a purple and I'm in the green.
Yes, that's like a postcard picture.
Yeah. So we went. I was excited because I wanted to get to Addis to still be there for the 50th anniversary of the AU or the OAU, and so it was within the same year, but it wasn't during the big celebrations. And then Mama Desta had the Man in the Millennium, and so I was also going there to support her in that effort. Or
Dr. Desta.
Yes, and so that was my first time, and so I didn't have so my first place landing and getting on the actual soil was in Ethiopia. And this is before they opened up the new highway that goes, passes the Debrecen and goes straight into Shashamane. And so Dawn got picked up by Ras Tafari, and I'm so sorry, I forgot our driver's name. I forgot his name, but I still have his contact. And he drove us, and he jumped they paid a little fine, a little fee, and they opened up the closed highway for us to get to Shashamane. So that was the first place. I was also blessed to meet Papa Wolf, Solomon Wolf, before he transitioned, and got to sit with him, and he was, his famous line is like, it's better to obey than to sacrifice. Yeah. So that is, and I have been obeying in terms, like, everything I do is really geared towards how am I going to help put my resources towards repatriation, or towards our, us, towards repatriation.
What year was that?
I believe it was 2013, 2014. You probably could gauge it by how old Isaac is, because Mama Waleti, remember, she tells a story about touching the water.
I didn't get that
in Lalibela. And she was like, there's a pool in Lalibela that when we were going through, our tour guide said that, the women would come and bathe in this pool in order to get fertile. So Mama Waleti was like, come on, let's go and bathe. And I was like, me being a water engineer, I'm looking at this water, I'm like, I see this algae growth on it. I'm like, I'm not going to put myself in that water. But I think Mama Waleti did touch the water, and that's why we have Dawit.
The prophet.
Yes, so that was my first time. And I would say going to Lalibela was probably the most profound thing for me, because the energy and the vibration there is just so full. Like you're here where centuries, people have just sat and prayed. And most of the time, when people are praying in these spaces, they're praying for good things. So you have all this good energy. So my mind was like, I was writing all this stuff. I had all these concepts, all these ideas. Unfortunately, I lost my book, but it doesn't matter because they came out. You know, all of those things came. I was also miraculously I wanted to get to the AU, but I had, you have to have access to get to the AU. So Nana Farika had tried to get me in contact with some people, and it didn't really fall through. But on this tour to Lalibela, the next day, the same tour guide that I had, he was touring another person, and that next person that he was touring happened to work at the AU. Oh, wow. And so he was able to give me the number to the secretary of the person I was trying to reach. And I was able to get myself and Mama Wolete into the AU. Wow! So that was my most. So that was that. And then I did not get back to Africa again until I want to say 2016 or 2015. I wanted to get there. Yeah, it was 2015 because I wanted to get there on my 40th year when I turned 40, and I had gotten into a work injury and I didn't want to try to go to Africa on a bum knee. So 2015 was the first time I went to Ghana, and Salt Pond was the first place that I went, and I did feel at home. I didn't have that feeling when I was in Ethiopia, although...
Okay, so Salt Pond, you said it felt like home, different than Ethiopia.
Yes.
How did you become the queen mother of Salt Pond?
So again, I'm an engineer, and then the thing is too, when you visit, as you know, when you visit a place, they're like, okay, there's somebody new in here. So who is this person? So I actually had access to the chiefs of the town from the very first time I stepped into Salt Pond, and there was a I don't know what possessed me to write this little synopsis of the things that I saw and an outline of what I wanted, what I would do if I was a part of this community, and and so I wrote this down and I gave it to the chiefs, and they were so they asked me from the first time I stepped foot in the area that they wanted me to be queen mother, and I was like, no thank you, thanks but no thank you. And so I continued to go to the town.
And there's a Rastafari community in town.
There is, yeah. And they actually they had tried to build a tabernacle on the beach, which they did, and then they lost it. But yeah, there is a pretty strong Rastafari community there, and then not in the town proper, but even some of the other towns that are close by. And so I declined, and then I said, well, when I thought about my businesses again, Asli Pure was created for me to be a philanthropist, and in the philanthropy, I was really focused on, and even having money to fund Rastafari, because again, yes, it would be great to be able to get our reparations, what's due to us, but in the interim, while we don't have those access to those funds, we still have to build. And so I was like, what better way than to, ideally I would like Asli Pure to be a B corporation like Newman O's, and be able to funnel that. I'm trying to find the wording that would make me accepted into the B corporation paradigm, because that's a whole network on its own. So so once I accepted the position, I figured, with me wanting to have my business manufactured in Ghana, because one of the things that when I go, and even when I went to Ethiopia, the idea sparked there was that we have to create jobs in Africa. We can't go, it's cool to take all of your money that you made in the West and to go and establish yourself, and I'm not knocking anyone that's going to retire, because they deserve it, but I'm of that younger generation that I'm not quite in retirement age, and I feel like we need to go create jobs, because that's the only way that you can really say that you're really doing something for the continent. And really, again, you have to understand just the parochial school system in some of these places are substandard. So unless your family comes from a middle class area, you have a means to pay for your children to go to school, their knowledge base on how to survive, not only survive, or how to thrive even within their own community is not there. So we have to go in there and show them like what we know, what we've learned from being on this side, like political stuff, even health wise, you know, because again, our traditional diets are shifting because of the importation of rice and flour and all these different things that are great to the palate, but they don't work well on the African body.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of diabetes, different parts of hypertension, and different things that weren't there traditionally.
Yeah.
Also, the shift because we're not doing as much manual labor anymore.
Right.
People have office jobs, but they're eating the field.
Yes.
You know, diet, you know,
Yes.
the food, you know, on a starch land. You
Yes.
know? So if you're not working hard to burn off all that sugar,
Right.
that starch is all turning into sugar.
Right,
You know,
which is
so
causing problems. So we really have to again look at our differences and come together. Because when you look at like for instance, I've heard this listening to a Ghana forum, and there was the ambassador to Israel in Ghana, and she was talking about how, you know, Israel is a desert, but Israel became Israel because of everyone who was of Jewish descent pouring money into the state, you know. So they have an apparatus that can pull water out the atmosphere so they can farm. You know. And so these are the things that we have to do.
Well, I'm glad that you have shared all of this. Again, this is just going to be a part one. Well, this has been a pleasure, you know, going through the history. This is just going to be the part one because we've gone through so much, but we haven't even scratched the surface of who the I is, of the works. We just kind of touch and go, but there's so much layers. But I just want to say thank you on behalf of the Lion Voice for being here. You're only my second female visitor, so you'll always be in the history book. Again, over 20 years, I've seen your children grow up. I've seen the I grow, and I said it jokingly at the beginning of the episode, but I meant that the I really is the inspiration. The I in terms of the work ethic and just how the I execute on things that you say. You know? And I think it's a great example for our younger sistren to see how, you know, you can be, and you always, you know, dress royal. This is not just for Lion Voice, unfortunately. This is just Mama Thea. So, you know, it's a blessing and a joy to have that journey. And it's also great to know that the time has come for the Lions to tell our own story.
Absolutely.
You know, because this is the Lion Voice.
Lion Voice. Well, great is the Almighty, and greatly to be praised in the city of Haile Selassie I, the mountain of His holiness.
Yeah, from Cape to Cairo, from Timbuktu to the Nile, you know, the whole entire continent.
Beautiful for situation, the joy of the whole earth is Mount Zion, from Accra to Addis Ababa.
Yes, it's a beautiful continent, better control, Mama Africa.
Very beautiful.
From Cape to Cairo, from Timbuktu to the Nile, I smile for Mama Africa.
I hear you call Mama Africa. Been so long since I see Mama. Father of Africa set the law. The lion come and dismantle Babylon flaw. We gonna use solar energy, use sanitation to build the ecology. We utilizing green technology. We hailing Haile Selassie first without apology. And then we build the youth them economy. We dismantle Babylon monopoly. We teach the youths them how to live properly. Tell them make sure them got the title fit them property.
Yes, this beautiful continent, better control, Mama Africa. From Cape to Cairo, from Timbuktu to the Nile, I smile for Mama Africa.
I love you, Mama. heart never harden. I wanna turn all your slums into garden. I wanna stop all of your youths from starving. I wanna stop all of your tribes from warring. So much to say, so many feelings. We both been hurt, we both need healing. Since the League of Nations you've been appealing. You stand up against them backdoor dealing. I hear you call Mama Africa. Been so long since I see Mama. Father of Africa set the law. The lion come and dismantle Babylon flaw. Then I hear you call Mama Africa. Been so long in America. Father of Africa set the law. The lion come and dismantle Babylon flaw.
So be still, all enemies of Jah. Know that he's the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, the Lion Conqueror. And it was said of Ethiopia, the highest himself shall establish her. His Majesty was born there.
And I know that I love you so. There's no place that I'd rather go. Tired of walking through slush and snow. Repatriation, that's a must I know.
Yes, into this beautiful continent.